So, good morning, Charmin, and good morning, everyone. We're here to listen about the story of wearability sport and their experiences in the last assembly. First of all, I'm Irene Pugliatti. I'm the CEO of Eligo eVoting, which is a platform, an all-in-one online platform to manage all kind of assemblies and elections in different types of organizations. What is online voting and what is digital voting, first of all? So, digital voting means that you can use the internet to vote remotely or in presence. So, online voting does not always mean that you need to vote remotely. So you can also organize hybrid or in presence meetings. And basically, the benefits of using digital voting are the fact that we simplify process also through integrations, for example, with video conference systems or CRMs. We guarantee accessibility, which is really important for us. And last but not least, it's secure and it's privacy compliant and it assures legality of the votes because we always organize electoral processes or voting processes that has legal validity. So for us is of the foremost importance that we provide a solution that is in compliance with the law at the end and that can be used for legal purposes as well. So I will not take any more seconds and minutes um, from our guest today. So welcome Sharman Hooper. She's the CEO of Word Ability Sport. So first of all, I'll kindly ask you to present yourself. Maybe tell us a bit more of what Word Ability Sport does. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity. World Ability Sport is one of the founding members of the Paralympic movement. So we have been around since the 1950s, and we are still the international governing body of the sports of wheelchair fencing, para dance sport, and power chair hockey. So across those sports, we look after all their requirements the same as an IF, and then we are also a major event organizer that still hosts World Games every year, youth games, and alternately we do the World Games. So that's sort of in a nutshell what we do, and we have a federation structure, and we are a charity registered not for profit in the UK, which is why we really have to make sure that all our procedures for our assemblies and our meetings are of the highest standard.
Thank you. That's great. So first of all, what prompted you to seek a digital voting platform for your assembly, and which were your key objectives in this decision?
Well, I think as the times have changed, and we've learned a lot over the past 4 years, we definitely wanted to make sure that when we merged last year also with another charity and became the first General Assembly for World Ability Sport this year, or last year, we wanted to ensure that we had a professional, modernized way of working, and that we made effective time use of the members. Travel is expensive, accommodation is expensive for people to come to meetings. So it was more just to take that next step up and make sure that we keep up with times.
Okay, great. That's interesting. And could you tell a bit more about your project and what were the things that aspects you focused in the organization and in the process itself?
I think one of the challenges was that because of our makeup of how we are structured, we were quite concerned because it's rather complicated, because we have all the different aspects of weighted votes. We had you know, countries across the world with different languages, different levels of education or experience in using technical technology. So looking at all of that, we really did feel that we needed to find a partner, and we like to say partners that could facilitate all our needs that we had.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As exactly as I was saying before, the fact, the complexity of a process when you have so many people worldwide, but even in the same region, let's say, it can be difficult to organize all the aspects and maintain legality of the assembly. And but what's interesting for me also is to understand actually how the members of the organizational staff responded to this decision of actually do this step up. So were there any initial challenges, resistance, which is normal? And if so, did these perceptions kind of change during the preparation and at the end?
I think, as I said, people are getting more used to it, so the resistance was less there. You know, there was less resistance, but there
Mm.
was more that sort of fear factor of, are we going to be able to cope with this? Will we understand? Is this going to be overcomplicated? Um, does the equipment, is our laptops or our phones going to be able to deal with what we are supposed to do? So there was really more those concerns. And of course, always, I suppose more so these days, it was the security. How secure is this? Um, you know, will what is a secret vote really be a secret vote, and what is a public or just a show of hands that we used to do? You know, how would these things be recorded, stored, and also afterwards, what happens with the information? And once we could sort of tell them that, you know, that these things are in place, um, there was really no one that had any more concerns.
Okay, great, great. Yeah, these aspects of security and process are are really important in communication aspects as well. So another question that comes to my mind is related to advantages of that you actually felt in practice, even in terms of on time, for example, or whatever advantages you can actually you could identify in these process made online, so digitally.
Yeah, I think the first thing is, when you initially look at the cost, compared to what you would have used previously with paper voting, and you know, people go, oh my goodness, this is so expensive, we cannot afford to do this. And then when you start slowly to look at the days that people have to be there, because you know, when it's a paper vote, the votes come in, you have maybe even up to an hour where people count the votes by hand. Your delegates at the meeting, they lose interest, they go to the bathroom, they go out for a break outside, and then they don't all come back, and then you don't have a quorum. Where by having it digitally, literally within seconds after the last person has cast their vote, people are there, they're excited, they can see it on the screen. It certainly, from that dynamics within the meeting, you keep everyone's attention, and we could actually feel that, you know, it was just so much more exciting to be part of the meeting, because everyone was going, oh, we can see it now, we can see it now. So it made it much nicer. and we didn't have to pay extra costs for scrutineers who we had to get, independent people to sit at the table, because we as you know, we had Claudia there, so that was absolutely the best decision as well, to invest a little bit more, to have somebody, you know, a person there in person representation at the meeting as well. It felt expensive in the beginning, but once the board and everyone has now seen the result, I think we will never go back.
That's really interesting, because the fact that you just said that at the beginning, because this is something that we discuss a lot with our clients and prospects. So, is this really cost effective? Because exactly as you said at the beginning, it feels like it's not, but after you put all the elements that are actually involved in a complex, or even in an easy process of decision making, at the end it is, but it takes a bit to understand it, and identify all the elements that actually are part of this process. So thank you for actually explaining to us in such a great detail which are really the parts that you put on the table when you evaluate the cost effectiveness of this decision, as well. And also the fact that having someone in person really can make the difference sometimes. Yeah, if it's the first, what we really say, if it's the first, if it's the first time you change completely the way you're voting, like, yeah, your case, this really changes a lot and make all the process smoother. Then afterwards, always what we always try to do is to make our clients independent, because at the end we want that for them. We want that all the decision making processes are digital. But yeah, the in-person support really can make a difference. And so speaking about a bit more in details about your voting process, can you share with us maybe some highlights or notable moments that happened during your assembly, considering that you have such different motions that you had to add to your voting process, approval of new members, different elections, different decisions to be taken. So was quite different elements in your assembly. So could you share a bit more of moments and insights on the assembly itself?
I sort of mentioned in the beginning, you know, we did not have any people who could remotely join the meeting, because we have to present the option of proxies to our members. So this is probably one of the most involved meetings that any organization can have, because we had proxies, we have the weighted votes, we had elections, we had really serious motions that came to the table. There was, you know, sort of talks about motions that might, amendments to motions during the meeting, additional motions that was during the meeting, that and there was just, the members understood, because they could see in front of them when things changed, and when we had to make little amendments during the meeting. So in the complexity of all the different kinds of votes, secret votes, public votes, you know, it just really covered absolutely all the aspects at our meeting. So, and I think the main reason in the end why we decided to have someone there in person was because we were also in Thailand. So the time difference with Europe, and having somebody there that is an independent face really helped as well to give people confidence. So it just made everything, and Claudia, well, we'll sing her praises until the end of days. It made such a difference.
Great. Yeah, the quality also the support it's something we really think
Mm.
it makes a difference, and these we can see it every day. So yeah, yeah, thank you. And but last we didn't speak about the voters because at the end we do all of these for the voters and for their perception and for their participation, active participation in
Mm.
these important moments. So how did the members, the voters, experience the process? Did they have any difficulties, or do you have any feedbacks from them, from the people that actually participated on the other side, just voting?
Well, there was we had the taste vote, so we did the taste vote, and it could be done in a very sort of a calm way that there was a chance for them to get used to it. It did because of some sort of language and technology skills levels. It did take a bit of time initially for them to to just see what is where and how the things fitted into each other. Um, but once the test vote was done, we didn't really have many issues. There's always the slower learners, and we could assist them a few times um, to get going. But in general, again, good. I think when people come back to you and say, "Oh, the system that you use, can we know more about them?" That's always a good, you know, a good indicator of how people experienced um, the technology that we used. So in general, I would say it was a positive feedback.
Okay, so you plan previously uh, a test or moments of sharing information, and then that was that for sure the right decision to make everyone ready, as was the first time. Great. And so, probably the last question that I'm curious about is based on your experience with legal and a legal team also, because we really think that the support people and support experience makes a difference. What words would you use to recommend or to define, to describe our platform and services to other federations, organizations like yours?
I think my words would be, if you want to have a smooth running, um, confidence based assembly or meeting where any level of decisions need to be made, um, the system really provides for so many options that we would recommend it highly to any national, international federation, or actually any organization who has to have a general meeting or a general assembly where voting has to be done. We can certainly highly recommend. And it came also, we made contact on the back of a recommendation from our Power Chair Hockey Federation, who said they used it, and they were a very small group. Um, so even the size of users, just the ability of the system is really robust, and felt um, gave us confidence.
Great. Thank you very much. I really love the word confidence. So thank you, Charmin, for having shared your story, your experience with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we will certainly be back knocking on your door